Drama in the world of sports and comedy has just exploded into something nobody saw coming. Imagine this: an FL legend turned TV personality Shannon Sharpe sitting across from the razor-tongued comedian Katt Williams, expecting just another routine conversation. But instead of friendly banter, the night spiraled into one of the most humiliating moments of Shannon's entire career. And to make matters worse, this came right after Shannon Sharpe was fired from his high-profile gig, leaving fans stunned and critics buzzing. Katt Williams, never one to hold back, delivered blow after verbal blow, tearing into Shannon with raw honesty and brutal comedy that had the audience gasping. The way Katt leaned in, smirked, and said, "This is what you deserve," sent shockwaves through the room. Cameras caught every second. Fans replayed it endlessly online, and suddenly the entire internet was ablaze with the question, did Shannon Sharpe just get destroyed on live air? Emotions ran high, friendships were tested, and fans couldn't believe how personal Katt made it. Some say Katt went too far. Others claim Shannon had it coming. But one thing is certain, this showdown has changed everything. Stay tuned, because what happened next will leave you speechless. The room was tense before the cameras even started rolling. Shannon Sharpe, known for his booming laugh, sharp takes, and even sharper suits, sat stiffly in his chair. For weeks, rumors had swirled about his unexpected departure from the sports show that made him a household name. Some said he had been fired, others whispered he had walked away. But the truth was hidden under layers of contracts and boardroom politics. Still, the headline screamed one thing: Shannon Sharpe had been pushed out. And now he was facing Katt Williams at the worst possible time. Katt walked onto the set with the slow, deliberate swagger only he could pull off, dressed in a velvet jacket that shimmered under the lights. He adjusted his sunglasses and grinned at the audience before even looking at Shannon. The smirk said it all: he knew this was his moment. Fans who tuned in weren't expecting politeness. They wanted fireworks, and Katt was about to deliver. The show began with a deceptively calm tone. The host introduced the two men, both icons in their own fields, and asked about the challenges of staying relevant in industries that constantly chew people up and spit them out. Shannon cleared his throat and answered first, his voice carrying the weight of disappointment masked as wisdom. "Sometimes in life, you give your best, but people don't appreciate it," he said, his eyes fixed straight ahead. "You get replaced, forgotten, or worse, you get blamed for things that weren't your fault. But I know who I am, and I know what I've built." The audience nodded, some clapping in sympathy, but Katt leaned forward, removing his sunglasses slowly, as if preparing to strike. "Shannon," Katt began, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "That's a real poetic way of saying you got fired." The audience gasped. Shannon's eyes narrowed, his jaw tightened, but he forced a laugh. "Come on now, Katt. You know, it's more complicated than that." "Nah," Katt shot back. "You can put a bow on a trash can, but at the end of the day, it still smells the same. You sat on TV yelling at another grown man every morning like you were in a barbershop, and then you're surprised when they showed you the door. Brother, that ain't complicated, that's karma." The crowd roared, half in laughter, half in shock. Shannon shifted uncomfortably in his chair, trying to keep his composure. He was used to being the one with the witty comebacks. But Katt wasn't just poking fun, he was dismantling him piece by piece. The host tried to step in, but Katt raised a hand. No, let him sit with it. This is what happens when you think the world owes you something just because you can bench press a small car. People loved you, sure, but you thought you were untouchable. Now look at you, sitting across from me, hoping for a little sympathy. Shannon clenched his fists under the table. His voice cracked slightly when he replied, "You don't know what it's like, Katt. You don't know what it feels like to build a career, to dedicate yourself day after day, only for some executives to decide you're no longer worth it. You don't understand loyalty." Katt burst into laughter so loud and sharp it echoed across the set. "Loyalty," Katt repeated, wiping tears from his eyes. "Man, this industry doesn't spell loyalty. You think them suits in their offices care about your blood, sweat, and tears? The only color they see is green, and the second your shine fades, they trade you in like a used car. I've been kicked out of more clubs, banned from more venues, and blacklisted from more networks than I can count. But I didn't cry about loyalty. I adjusted. I survived. And you sitting here acting like somebody stole your lunch money? The audience was hanging on every word. And social media was already lighting up with clips of the exchange. Fans tweeted, "Katt is cooking Shannon alive," while others argued, "Nah, Katt is going too far, humiliating him when the man is already down." The tension thickened as Shannon tried to defend himself. His voice grew louder, more passionate, almost pleading with the audience to understand. "I gave that show everything. I brought my personality, my knowledge, my life experiences. People connected with me. People trusted me." Katt interrupted with a sneer. "Yeah, they connected until you turned into a meme factory. Every other day, folks posting your crying face or your shocked expressions like you were a cartoon character. You became a punchline, Shannon. And when you become a punchline, it's only a matter of time before the joke's on you." The room erupted again. Some audience members covered their mouths, unable to believe what they were hearing. The host looked panicked, but Katt wasn't finished. "And let's be real," Katt added, his tone suddenly more serious. "You think they fired you because of ratings or disagreements? Nah, brother. They fired you because you forgot the game. You thought you were bigger than the table you sat at. You started believing your own hype. And when that happens, the fall hits harder." Shannon's face turned red. He tried to speak, but for a moment the words wouldn't come. He glanced at the audience, looking for support, but their reactions were split. Some looked at him with pity, others with judgment. "So, this is funny to you?" Shannon finally managed to say. "A man losing his career, his stability, his identity. You sit here mocking me while I'm going through the toughest moment of my life?" Katt leaned back, folding his arms, his eyes narrowing. "I don't think it's funny, Shannon. I think it's necessary. Sometimes humiliation is the only medicine for ego. Maybe this is what you needed. A wake-up call. Because if you don't humble yourself, life will do it for you. And trust me, life don't play fair." The silence that followed was deafening. The audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Some nodded in agreement with Katt's harsh truth, while others whispered, "He didn't have to go that hard." The cameras caught every flicker of emotion on Shannon's face in Gar. Hurt, pride, and finally a flash of something that looked like defeat. He took a deep breath and muttered, almost to himself, "This ain't right." But Katt wasn't done. What's not right is living in a fantasy where you think folks will protect you just because you gave them good TV. What's not right is ignoring the signs when the writing's been on the wall for months. The only thing that's right is reality. And reality just smacked you across the face. Consider this your mirror, Shannon. The words hit harder than a punch. And for the first time, Shannon didn't have a comeback. The camera zoomed in on his face as he sat silently, staring at the table. His lips pressed tightly together. Fans watching live couldn't believe what they were witnessing. Messages poured in. Katt just ended Shannon's career. This is brutal. And somebody stop Katt before he destroys the man completely. Before he destroys the man completely. But the show didn't stop. The tension was only rising, and everyone knew this was just the beginning of a showdown that would go down in entertainment history. And then Katt leaned in again, lowering his voice to a near whisper, but somehow making it even more cutting. "This is what you deserve, Shannon," flinched as if the words had pierced straight through him. And the audience gasped again. The host nervously shuffled his cue cards. But before anyone could move on, Shannon lifted his head, his eyes blazing with a mix of fury and pain. "You think you know me, Katt?" he asked, his voice shaking but firm. "You don't know the half of it. You don't know the sacrifices I've made, the things I've given up, the people I've lost. You sit here laughing at my fall, but you don't know my story. You don't know the battles I've fought just to sit at that table." The atmosphere shifted. The audience leaned forward, sensing that the real fight was about to begin. And with that, Shannon prepared to unleash his side of the story, refusing to let Katt have the final word. And that's exactly where the battle picked up, dragging both men into even deeper waters, where family, betrayal, and buried secrets would soon be thrown onto the table for the world to see. The set felt heavier now, as if the air itself had thickened with tension. Katt leaned back in his chair, smug and calm, while Shannon sat rigid, shoulders squared but eyes burning with emotion. The audience barely breathed, waiting to see if Shannon would crumble under the weight of Katt's humiliation or rise to defend himself. Shannon finally spoke, his voice low but powerful, the kind of tone that silences a room. "You think this is about ego, Katt? You think I'm sitting here crying over a TV contract? No, this is deeper than that. This is about being judged my whole life, from the time I was a boy in Georgia with nothing, to standing in stadiums with thousands of people chanting my name. I fought for every inch. I sacrificed everything. And even now, when I should be celebrated, folks still want to tear me down, just like you're doing right now." Katt smirked but didn't interrupt, letting the silence do the work. Shannon continued, his voice rising with each word. "You talk about me forgetting the game. Nah, I lived the game. I've bled for it. And when I got to that desk, I brought that same fight. But no matter how much I gave, there's always somebody waiting to see you fall. Always somebody laughing at your pain. And maybe you're one of them, Katt. Maybe you're enjoying this. But I promise you, I've walked through fires you wouldn't survive." The audience clapped, some standing to cheer, but Katt leaned forward with a sly grin. "And yet, here you are, sitting across from me, fighting for respect you should already have if everything you just said was true. You see, Shannon, real legends don't need to remind people they're legends. The work speaks for itself. You're out here giving speeches, begging for sympathy. And you call that strength?" Shannon's nostrils flared. "I ain't begging. I'm telling my truth. And if people can't respect that, maybe they never respected me to begin with." The back and forth felt like a heavyweight fight, each blow landing harder than the last. Fans watching online were split right down the middle. Some said Shannon is finally standing up for himself, while others argued Katt is exposing the truth and Shannon can't take it. But then Katt shifted gears. His tone dropped, more serious now, almost cutting into Shannon's soul. "You know what your real problem is, Shannon? It ain't the executives. It ain't the fans. It's the people closest to you. The ones you thought had your back. Where were they when you got fired? Where were your so-called brothers, your teammates, your TV partner? You notice how quiet they've been? Nobody came to defend you. Nobody stood up. And that's silence. That tells you everything." The words landed like a gut punch. Shannon blinked, stunned, because deep down he knew Katt was right. When the news of his firing broke, there had been no public support from his inner circle. The same colleagues he'd laughed with on screen, the same athletes he defended, had all gone quiet. The audience murmured, sensing Shannon's vulnerability. He tried to hold his ground. "I don't need anybody to defend me. I can handle myself." Katt chuckled darkly. "Nah, you do need them. Everybody needs somebody. But the truth is, they never needed you as much as you needed them. And now that you're gone, they're moving on like you never existed. That's the part that hurts, don't it? Not losing the job, but realizing you were replaceable to the people you thought were family." Shannon's lips trembled. For the first time, he looked less like a giant and more like a man who'd been broken down piece by piece. The host tried to intervene, nervously shuffling his cards. "Gentlemen, maybe we should take a step back." But Shannon slammed his hand on the table, startling everyone. "No. Let him talk. Let him say whatever he wants. Because I've held my tongue long enough. Katt, you want to humiliate me? Fine. But let's not pretend your career has been spotless. How many times have you been arrested? How many bridges have you burned? How many people in Hollywood can't stand the sight of you because you couldn't control your own demons? Don't sit here and act like you're the voice of truth when you've been your own worst enemy for decades." The crowd erupted, gasping and shouting. For the first time, Shannon had swung back hard. Katt's grin faltered. Shannon pressed on, his words cutting like knives. You stand there laughing at my fall, but at least I didn't destroy myself. At least I didn't sabotage every opportunity handed to me. At least I didn't make headlines for the wrong reasons every other year. So before you point fingers at me, maybe you should look in the mirror. The audience clapped loudly now, some even chanting Shannon's name. Katt leaned back, rubbing his chin, clearly caught off guard. Ah, Katt said finally, smirking again so the gladiator finally throws a punch. I was wondering when you'd stop whining and start fighting. But you see, Shannon, there's a difference between me and you. Yeah, I messed up. Yeah, I fell. But I owned it. I never pretended to be perfect. I never hid behind some polished image. I told the world exactly who I was, flaws and all. And guess what? They still love me for it. But you've built your whole brand on being the strong, unshakable man. So when that cracks, people don't know what to do with you. They laugh. They move on, because nobody believes the myth anymore. The words stung. And Shannon's breathing grew heavier, but then something unexpected happened. A voice from the audience shouted, "We still believe in you, Shannon." Another voice added, "Don't let him get to you." The energy shifted slightly. Shannon looked toward the crowd, his eyes softening as he saw fans standing up for him. Katt raised an eyebrow, clearly annoyed that the sympathy was swinging back to Shannon. "Oh, so now you need cheerleaders. That's cute. Let's see if they're still cheering when I tell them what really happened behind the scenes of your firing." The audience gasped, and Shannon's face turned pale. "What do you mean?" Shannon asked cautiously. Katt leaned forward, lowering his voice but ensuring every word dripped with venom. "You think people don't talk? I've got friends in the industry. I know the whispers. I know it wasn't just the executives that wanted you gone. There were people on that set who couldn't stand working with you anymore. People who said you were too controlling, too emotional, too desperate to prove yourself. They wanted you out as much as the suits did." Shannon's eyes widened. "That's a lie, is it?" Katt shot back. "You sure about that? Because I've got names. And if I said them right now, half this audience would choke." The room exploded with chatter. People turning to each other, trying to guess who Katt was referring to. Shannon shook his head violently. Shannon shook his head violently. "You don't know what you're talking about." Katt smirked again, sensing victory. "Oh, I know. And deep down you know too. That's why you're mad. Not because I'm humiliating you, but because I'm telling the truth you don't want to face. The betrayal didn't just come from the suits, it came from the people you trusted." Shannon sat frozen, his mind racing. His heart pounded as memories of tense moments on set. Silent looks from producers and unreturned calls from colleagues flashed through his head. The audience was on edge, whispering and speculating. Fans online were typing furiously. Who betrayed Shannon? Was it his co-host? Did Katt just expose a scandal? The host tried to regain control, but it was useless. The show had become a battlefield. And everyone knew the war was just beginning. Shannon finally looked up, his face a mix of anger and heartbreak. "You don't know what you've just started, Katt. But if you want to play this game, fine. Let's put everything on the table. Because I've kept quiet for too long. And tonight, the truth is coming out." The audience erupted in cheers, sensing that the next round would reveal secrets nobody expected. And with that, the battle shifted again, preparing to drag both men into deeper, darker revelations that would shake their worlds even more. The energy in the studio had shifted from tense to electric. The audience leaned forward in their seats, knowing they were about to witness something raw and explosive. Shannon Sharpe sat upright, shoulders broad, eyes fierce. No longer the humiliated man, but a fighter ready to strike back. Katt Williams, however, didn't flinch. He smirked like a man confident he'd already won. Waiting for Shannon to unravel, Shannon slammed his hand against the table again, the sound echoing like a gunshot. "You want the truth, Katt? You think you know what happened? Fine, let's talk about betrayal. Let's talk about the people who smiled in my face every morning. laughed at my jokes, and then turned around and whispered in boardrooms. You think I don't know they wanted me out? I know, I've known for months. But I stayed quiet because I didn't want to ruin anybody's reputation. But since you brought it up, let's call it what it is, jealousy. Plain and simple, the audience gasped, murmurs filling the studio. Some clapped in agreement, others whispered nervously, desperate for names. Katt tilted his head, his grin widening. Jealousy. Katt repeated, his tone mocking. So everybody else was jealous of you. That's the story you're telling yourself. Man, that's not jealousy. That's just people tired of dealing with your ego. Ego. Shannon shot back, his voice booming. Ego is walking onto this set thinking you can tear me down and walk out untouched. Ego is you acting like you ain't ever been the problem in your own career. Me, I worked my way up from nothing. Katt, I wasn't handed opportunities. I earned them. Every speech, every take, every debate earned that seat. And yeah, maybe some people couldn't handle the fact that the country boy from Georgia was shining brighter than them. The crowd erupted with applause, cheering Shannon on. For a moment, the tides seemed to shift, but Katt quickly leaned forward, lowering his voice to a chilling whisper. If you earned it, then why are you sitting here unemployed? Legends don't get fired, Shannon. Legends write their own endings. So if you were as untouchable as you claim, why did the suits drop you like last season's sneakers? Tell the truth. It wasn't jealousy, it was exhaustion. They were done carrying your weight. The audience gasped again, the tension rising higher. Shannon's lips tightened, and his hands curled into fists. You think you know everything, Shannon said, his tone sharp. But you don't. You don't know what it's like to walk into work every day knowing somebody is plotting your downfall. You don't know what it's like to be stabbed in the back by people you trusted. The coworkers, the producers, even the people you thought were friends, they all wanted a piece of me. But they didn't want me to eat. And when they saw I was too strong, too loud, too real, they decided to push me out. But let me tell you something, Katt. Being pushed out ain't the same as being finished. The audience clapped again, chanting Shannon's name. Shannon. Shannon. The energy lifted, but Katt wasn't fazed. He waited for the chance to die down before delivering his next blow. So you blaming everybody else? You the victim now. Man, that's the saddest part of all this. A real man owns his mistakes. A real man don't point fingers when the house burns down. He looks at the matches in his own hand. Shannon's chest heaved, but he smiled bitterly. And what about you, Katt? How many bridges you burned? How many people you blamed when you were blackballed? How many nights did you sit alone wondering why the phone wasn't ringing, only to realize you were the common denominator? Don't you dare lecture me about ownership. I've owned every mistake I've ever made. But what I won't do is sit here and let you rewrite my story for laughs. The audience roared in approval. And for the first time, Katt's smirk faltered. But then he leaned forward, eyes blazing, ready to drop the bomb he'd been holding back. Oh, I ain't laughing, Shannon. But you know who is? The people watching at home. Because while you're sitting here crying betrayal, the truth is you betrayed yourself. You put your business out there, your emotions out there, your private life out there. You let the world see every crack in your armor, and then you wonder why they used it against you. Nobody had to ruin you, you did it yourself, one viral moment at a time. The room went silent. Even Shannon looked shaken because deep down, Katt's words cut close to the truth. His emotional outbursts, his visible reactions. The tears on live TV throws had become memes, jokes, ammunition for critics. Shannon swallowed hard, then leaned forward, his voice trembling but defiant. So what, Katt? I showed emotion. I showed I was human. You call that weakness, but I call that real. And if people laughed, fine. But they also saw the passion. They saw the heart. And I'd rather be remembered as a man who cared too much than a man who mocked everybody else, while hiding behind jokes. The audience clapped loudly, and some even stood up to cheer. Fans online were divided, half siding with Katt's brutal honesty, half praising Shannon's vulnerability. Katt tilted his head, smirking again, though his eyes showed a flicker of frustration. You still don't get it, do you? This ain't about caring. It's about control. You lost control of your image, your narrative, your relationships. And once you lose that, it's game over. You don't get to rewrite it after the fact. Shannon leaned closer, almost nose to nose with Katt. Game over. Nah, my story ain't done. My career ain't done. You think humiliation is the end? For me, humiliation is fuel. And when I come back, and trust me, you're gonna remember this night as the night you lit the fire under me. The crowd erupted, stomping their feet and cheering. The energy was now chaotic, the tension unbearable. The host looked pale, trying to restore order. But the battle had spiraled beyond control. But then Katt raised a finger, signaling for silence. Before you start celebrating your imaginary comeback, let me remind you of something. When a man loses his career, he loses more than just a paycheck. He loses his family's security. He loses the respect of his peers. He loses himself, and I've seen it happen too many times. So while you're sitting here talking about fuel, just remember fires burn everything, including the people you love. You sure you're ready for that? The words hit Shannon like a thunderclap. His face tightened, and his eyes glistened as he thought of his family, his children, his loved ones. The ones watching this all unfold in real time. Don't you dare bring my family into this, Shannon growled. His voice low and dangerous. Katt leaned back, smirking again, but his point had been made. The audience erupted in whispers. The drama escalating to a whole new level. The tension was no longer just about careers and egos, it was about family, pride, and the very core of who Shannon Sharpe was. And as the cameras zoomed in on his face, trembling between fury and heartbreak, everyone knew this wasn't just a battle of words anymore. This was a war that would drag in every piece of his life, every relationship, every secret, until nothing was left untouched. The next words out of Shannon's mouth would decide everything. And the audience sat in stunned silence, waiting to see which direction the storm would turn next. The silence in the studio was thick, the kind of silence that makes even the air feel heavy. All eyes were on Shannon Sharpe, his chest heaving. His fists pressed against the table as if he was holding himself back from exploding. Katt Williams leaned back in his chair with that same infuriating smirk, like a man who had already won the war. But the crowd knew this wasn't over. This was the moment where Shannon would either break completely or rise from the ashes. Shannon's single quotes S voice finally broke the silence, low and trembling but filled with fire. You talk about my family, Katt? You sit here and drag them into this like they're props in your comedy routine? Let me tell you something. You don't know what it takes to provide, to sacrifice, to build something bigger than yourself. You don't know what it means to wake up every day with the weight of people depending on you. So don't you dare sit there and act like you can tell me about loss. The audience clapped, some even shouting, "Tell him, Shannon." Katt simply raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. You done? Katt asked, almost bored. Because all I hear is another speech about how hard your life is. Newsflash, Shannon, we all got struggles. The difference is, some of us don't use them as shields when we fail. You talking about sacrifice? I've been blackballed, broke, abandoned, locked up, lied on. But guess what? I never begged for pity. I never cried on national TV. I turned my pain into power. I owned it. And that's why I'm still here. Shannon's eyes blazed. You call that power? Nah, that's survival. Power is standing up in front of the world, flaws and all, and refusing to be ashamed. Power is showing emotion when everyone expects you to be a robot. Power is getting knocked down and telling the world, yeah, I'm hurt. But I'm still standing. The audience cheered, their voices shaking the studio walls. But Katt leaned forward, dropping his smirk for the first time. His eyes narrowed and his tone turned ice cold. Standing? Brother, you ain't standing, you're crawling. And the saddest part is, you don't even see it. You think this humiliation is some kind of badge of honor? But the truth is, the world moved on without you. And deep down, you know it. That's why you're fighting so hard right now, because you can feel yourself slipping into irrelevance. The words hung in the air like daggers. Shannon's lips tightened, his breathing uneven. The audience gasped, some shaking their heads in disbelief. But then, Shannon straightened his back and looked Katt dead in the eyes. Irrelevance. You think that's my story? Nah, Katt. Let me tell you something. You can take the seat, the spotlight, the paycheck. But you can't take away the impact. You can't erase the millions of people who watched me, who connected with me, who were inspired by me. Careers come and go, but legacy lasts. And my legacy. That's untouchable. The audience roared with approval, standing to their feet, clapping and chanting his name again. Shannon's words struck deep, and for a moment, the energy swung completely in his favor. Katt sat still, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Then Katt chuckled quietly, shaking his head. Legacy, huh? Let me tell you about legacy. Legacy is what people say about you when you're gone. Legacy is the story that lives after the lights go out. And right now, your legacy ain't looking like inspiration, it's looking like a cautionary tale. The man who thought he was bigger than the show, bigger than the network, bigger than the game. And when the game finally spit him out, he couldn't handle it. That's the legacy you're writing. The audience gasped again, torn between Katt's brutal honesty and Shannon's resilience. Social media was already in flames, fans typing furiously. Katt is too ruthless. Shannon fighting for his dignity. This is the wildest showdown I've ever seen. Shannon clenched his jaw. His voice trembled, but it carried raw truth. If I'm a cautionary tale, then so be it. I'd rather be remembered for falling while standing for something than for never standing at all. And Katt, as funny as you are, as talented as you are, your own story ain't exactly pretty. So before you sit here writing my obituary, maybe think about how people will remember you. Because for all the jokes and headlines, what's your legacy gonna be? The genius who couldn't stay out of his own way. The man who destroyed himself faster than Hollywood ever could. The audience exploded again, half in shock, half in applause. Katt froze for just a second, his smirk faltering before he forced it back. Careful, Shannon, Katt muttered. You don't want the smoke? I already got the smoke, Shannon fired back. You're just blowing on the fire. But here's the thing, you can't burn down a man who's already walked through flames. The audience went wild, stomping, clapping, screaming. The host tried desperately to calm the chaos, but it was useless. The moment had spiraled far beyond control. Then, in a shocking twist, Katt stood up. The crowd hushed instantly. Katt paced slowly across the stage, his hands behind his back, his eyes locked on Shannon like a predator circling its prey. You know what? Katt said, his voice low but carrying across the room. Maybe you're right. Maybe humiliation does build strength. Maybe this really is your fire. But don't mistake this for a comeback story. Because sometimes, the fire don't forge you, it consumes you. And when it does, ain't no rising from the ashes. The words sent chills through the room. Shannon rose to his feet too, his massive frame towering over Katt, his voice booming. If it consumes me, so be it. But I'd rather burn chasing something real than live cold, mocking everybody else from the sidelines. And when history looks back, they'll see a man who never stopped fighting. Even when the world tried to bury him, the audience erupted one final time, louder than ever before. Some shouted Katt's name, others screamed for Shannon. The room divided but electrified. The host, nearly in tears from the chaos, finally cut in. Gentlemen, we're out of time. But I think the world just witnessed something unforgettable. The camera zoomed in on Shannon's face, glistening with sweat but filled with fire, then on Katt.com and smirking, as if he knew he'd still gotten the last word. And just like that, the show ended, leaving the audience stunned, the fans divided, and the internet ablaze with clips, memes, and debates. But one thing was undeniable. This battle between Katt Williams and Shannon Sharpe had crossed from entertainment into legend, a clash that would be replayed and argued about for years to come. And as the lights dimmed and the credits rolled, The question lingered in every viewer's mind was this: the end of Shannon Sharpe or the beginning of his greatest comeback? If you've made it this far, you already know this clash between Katt Williams and Shannon Sharpe was more than just entertainment. It was a raw, unfiltered battle of pride, pain, and legacy. But what do you think? Did Katt take it too far? Or did Shannon prove that his spirit can't be broken no matter how hard he's pushed? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because we want to hear from you. Make sure you hit that like button if you enjoyed the breakdown. And don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss the wildest stories, the biggest confrontations, and the most shocking revelations. Turn on the notification bell, because the next chapter in this saga might drop sooner than you think, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. Share this video with your friends so they can join the debate. Let's keep the conversation going. Was this the end of Shannon Sharpe's journey, or the spark that sets off his greatest comeback yet? Only time will tell, but one thing is for sure, we'll be right here covering every twist and turn.